the question in Buffalo is, what was the root of the problem? And I think the other side of it is, what is the fix? And there's only so much you can do to improve the talent of a football team in one offseason because of the salary cap and contracts and that. But if you can go out and get yourself a new coach, and this is why hires like Ben Johnson get people fired, because other owners are like, hey, I want one of those. I want a Ben Johnson. Go find me a Ben Johnson. Okay. It's like not exactly a grocery list, but okay, we'll go find you somebody who can take the team where you want it to go. So that, to me, was the, I don't want to say surprise, but that was what we needed to know. How is ownership going to resolve coaching versus talent? And in a clear, resounding way, ownership decided the problem in Buffalo isn't talent, it's coaching.
And I'm always blown away by who gets to get in the owner's ear first. Because if I'm a general manager and we talk about talent, then I go back to how we evaluated these players when they were in college. And whatever the consensus or, and if you can bring in other outside information of maybe a head coach or another general manager on another team that's having success, maybe their thoughts on a player or how they felt about that player. If you can bring all that in and then you can turn it to, hey, this guy is talented, we're not developing him. This coaching staff isn't getting the best out of this guy. And we all have talked about Keon Coleman being on the Buffalo Bills, of this being his first-round draft pick who's supposed to come in and fulfill a need at the wide receiver position. And it just feels like that's an easy way to say, hey, this kid has a ton of talent. We're not developing him. And I always think it's funny because in coaching, you can look at a player like that who's supposed to be immensely talented and say, hey, they're not getting the best out of him. But then you flip it on the other side and you look at Shakir, another receiver that not many of us talked about or knew about, and he's emerged as a really good player for Buffalo. And you could say, hey, that's true development right there for a guy who doesn't have a ton of talent, but how he shows up because of the coaching, because of his work ethic and all those different things. So I find it hard, I think, when you bring in two guys at the same time, and we've talked about it here before, and they're supposed to be joined at the hip, which makes me think a lot goes into the draft process that both guys get to participate in. They're both talking about, hey, this player that, we get him in our system, how we develop. Like, I would think all of that goes kind of hand in hand. So when you decide to move on from the head coach, I just think it's shocking that you say, hey, this general manager who came in at the same time as his head coach, they had a prior relationship. They talked about how great they worked together, how they were going to build together. I just think it's very hard to then move on from just a head coach. And obviously you're going to favor the GM because when you're watching the games on Sunday, that's the person you're probably texting, or that's the person in your suite. Like, it's obvious you're going to build a better relationship because the coach is coaching. He's down there with the players. He's doing all of those things. So, again, I just, like you started this with, where do you turn next? And I just feel like whatever Josh Allen's comfortable with, which is a Brian Dable, which is a Joe Brady, I think it would be hard for me to assume they go totally outside of the building and get somebody, because to me, if you do that, you would want a former coach, somebody that you feel is, we've seen them do it before. We've seen them go and take a team and win in those high pressure situations, win in the playoffs. So I don't know who else is out there that you do that, because like you said, you don't just find Ben Johnson, you don't just find Liam Cohen. Like, that doesn't just happen for these first year head coaches. Like, we love these success stories, but it's just so rare.
I'm going to pull this thread a little bit more as it relates to McDermott leaving and Beane not only staying but getting promoted. Because the dysfunctional teams, and I'm not calling the Bills dysfunctional in this case, the Browns are dysfunctional, and several dysfunctional teams this cycle are hiring coaches yet again. Got a text yesterday from a coach who said this is the worst collective of owners the league has ever had. Not that they're all bad, but when you take all 32 and you put them in a bucket, this is the worst group that this coach has seen, as evidenced by the fact that these teams are constantly lather, rinse, repeat, looking for a fix. How do I get my team better? I did a bad job hiring the last guy, so I'm going to fire that guy. I'm going to hire another one. But because we see the dysfunctional teams doing their best to turn it around, we see the half measures. Anybody that watched Breaking Bad knows Mike Ehrmantraut, big long monologue about why no half measures, never any half measures. Firing the coach, keeping the GM, firing the GM, keeping the coach, that's a half measure. You mentioned joined at the hip. I've been a firm believer for years. The coach and the GM have to have equal accountability. Hey, guys, either you're both going to thrive or you're both getting fired. Don't think that you can talk to me as the owner, and God, fans everywhere should shudder at the idea that I would be the owner of their favorite team. But, frankly, look around the league. You could do worse, and some of you are. So I don't want to be in position to figure out which of the two people is to blame. You're both to blame. Because if, and this is an important point, and I don't want to lose sight of it because we're dealing with all these different places where now the Dolphins finally realized, you know what, half measure isn't going to work. Let's hire a new coach and a new GM. But the idea that you create this toxic environment where the coach thinks, hey, I can save my ass and blame the GM. And the GM thinks, hey, I can save my ass and blame the coach. And you hit on it. And I want to make this point very clearly. The people sitting with the owner have a huge advantage. It's during the game. It's the culmination of all the work. And, hey, I don't think we should have gone for it there. Hey, the analytics, ESPN analytics said go, and he didn't. Can you believe that? And the coach can't defend himself. The coach is working. Everybody else is eating shrimp, right? Hopefully deveined, and whispering to the owner, right? So there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than shrimp that they failed to devein. And you see it far more often than you should. But I had a coach tell me one time, hey, I went to an NBA game, and I was in the owner's suite, and I heard some of these front office people talking to the owner about the coach, and I thought, holy cow, I hope people don't talk like that to my owner about me. But that's what happens. And so there's a power struggle, and what we've witnessed is the end result. And it wasn't just Brandon Beane saved himself. Whatever Brandon Beane's been saying to Terry Bogula was enough to get him promoted to the president of football operations. It's in the same release, the one that starts with the word admiral instead of admirable. I mean, 5 words in, your most important press release that you have sent out in years. First line, and hey, we got plenty of typos. I wear that. We're moving, baby. We're come on, next story. We have people that read it on the back end. We go in and clean it up, and I've been doing more to try to iron them out. But I'm telling you what, if I have the most important press release that I'm ever going to send in a decade by PFT, I am going to say admirable when I mean admiral. It's not going to start off, Sean has done an admiral job. That's a fail by the Buffalo Bills. But later on, Paragraph 3, moving forward, Brandon Beane will now serve as the president of football operations. He'll oversee all facets of the football operation, including the oversight of our coaching staff. He's the man now. He wins. He's the king. That's what's weird about this. They didn't do enough to save the coach, but they did enough to make the GM the king of the football operation. How do you reconcile those?
Yeah, it's amazing that we talk. This is $1 billion industry. This is the most important thing. So I was laughing when I saw your article about that. And again, I think for Buffalo, especially because of where they've been as an organization, this just feels like a backtrack. And when we say that here on a Tuesday morning, and I could be totally wrong. In 2 years when they hired a coach and the coach takes them wherever, and it's like, man, what a great move. But it just, I don't know, I'm sitting here and I'm just trying to really wonder, okay, when I think about a team and I think about in our meeting room, I used to sit right by Mr. Kraft. When Mr. Kraft would come to meetings, I would sit right by him, maybe call it the last 3 or 4 years of my career. And I can't imagine the questions or what will go on during the game, because even as we would sometimes, Monday morning we'd be in there watching the film and Bill would be pulling up certain plays in the game, he would just generally innocently ask me questions about what a guy was supposed to do or why this looked like that, and these different things that I can't imagine during a game, especially in these like playoff games, these kind of high intense games, or one of the regular season games that's going to decide seedings. Just the amount of back and forth that can go on in those moments when, obviously, if you're a general manager, if you're a high level exec, like you're all going to have opinions during the game of what should or shouldn't be done. And like you said, the advantage should be sitting there and giving your take on something. I just think it's so valuable, because these owners, they love the sport. They love the team. They're a huge fan. They're like, when you break it down, they're one of the biggest fans that the team has. So they don't have all the information. They don't have all the understanding of the football aspect of whether a player should do something or a coach should coach it this way or that way. So they lean on, if you're sitting next to the general manager, you're going to lean on that. So I just think for Sean McDermott, I think this is an obvious situation where it's not about what happens. Like, he's going to probably end up a head coach of another football team in this cycle, because if you're a team, you name it, I don't know, the Cleveland Browns, you're whatever team, and you think about the struggles you've had, and you look at Sean McDermott and say, hey, he coached somewhere for 9 years and they went to the playoffs 8 times. They went to conference championships. Like, that he's done things that so many other organizations have dreamed of doing. So, again, it's musical chairs. It's trying to figure it out. And right away, I think of the situation we're talking about. I think of my brother being in Cleveland in 2017, where the true battle was between the head coach and the GM. It was these two guys going back and forth, even with the players, talking about, man, we just don't have enough. Head coach, we don't have enough talent. General manager talking to players, man, I don't understand. Like, we got all these great draft picks and we're just not winning. We're not getting it done on the field. And I think no matter what, Buffalo has to try to make sure they don't move in that direction. Whoever comes in next, they have to make sure that that next head coach doesn't come in right away and their first thing is, hey, we got to get the talent in here. We got to get the guys in here that can go win games. Because I think as soon as that happens, it comes with the notion of, I'm here because we didn't have enough to get there. Not just from a coaching standpoint, we got to get the certain guys in here. We got to get the culture guys that I need in here, because now you're going to see it in a hurry if they don't win the amount of games that they should win next year. Or because now if you don't make it to the conference championship with Josh Allen and a new head coach, I would assume that's a failure. Like, I don't know what they will look now going back. Mahomes is coming off he's going to come off an ACL. Lamar Jackson's going to have a new head coach. Like, Joe Burrow and Cincinnati are still trying to, like, I have to imagine you gotta be playing for, we win this game, we're in the Super Bowl. So it just seems like they put a ton of pressure on what happens in this 1 year in 2026.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.